In the next part of our pond design video, we are going to cover grading in a forebay and grading in a sump. Now the forebay will separate the incoming water from the regular water that's in the pond, and it will allow it to settle a bit, clean itself before it flows into the regular pond. Now you do see this all the time in real life, and let's just go to Google Maps. Google Maps quickly, and then I'll zoom to where they have one. I'll turn the aerial photo back on, and then I'll bring it back. So up by Cross Iron Mills, if we look at this pond here, so we have the exit from Cross Iron back onto QE2 South back into Calgary. We have our regular pond, and we got a little bit of our forebay here. So the water will flow into the forebay, it'll settle out, and it'll slowly trickle into our regular pond. So this allows it to settle, allows it to get clean, allows the dirt to settle out of it a little bit before it gets put into the regular pond. So we need to define a forebay, we need to design a sump. So what did we do in the previous video? We created 3 surfaces: pond high water level, pond floor, pond berm. We created a couple sites. We got into the grading objects. Now we're going to be playing with grading objects a little bit more in this video. The next 2 things we have to design are all grading objects. Some of them will explode when we're done, and I'll show you how to clean some of the rounded edges up. So the first thing we need to do on here is create a forebay. So I'm going to just close the panorama for now. We'll open it up again here in a few minutes. Now the forebay is what holds your water. It's kind of the lowest part in the pond. It's where most of the dirt will settle if any dirt gets into it. It's easier to clean out just a 10 by 10 meter forebay than the entire bottom floor of your pond. And it'll be about half a meter to a meter lower than the rest of the pond, so they can pump it out easier. So all the water will flow into the forebay. It'll be the lowest part, and it will collect the majority of the dirt. So we're going to start off by drawing a 10 by 10 meter square. So the bottom of my forebay, I want it to be 10 by 10 meters. Now I'm going to line it up so it's perpendicular with my existing pond. So I'm just going to draw it out here for now, 10 by 10, and hit enter. And we have a 10 by 10 meter there. So I'm just going to move this right now. It's just a polyline into the corner, snap it to any of these lines, rotate it from the end point here, reference point R, the @ symbol. I'm going to snap to the end of this side, and then I'm going to snap it to the nearest on here. So I've just rotated it with a reference point. That's all I've done. I am then going to move this from the midpoint to the end point here. You can see where the berm comes down and makes a defined pointed edge. I want to snap the midpoint of my sump to the end of that line. Now again, this is the floor. So I'm going to move this a little bit again, or this would be the bottom. I'm going to move it a meter away from this point. So if you just snap, turn on your extension snaps, and be very careful with turning O-snaps on. So I want an extension, I want it a meter away. Why did that not work? 1 meter. There we go. That didn't work again. Okay, let's just copy it then. From here, we'll snap to the end, a meter away. That again did not work. So the reason it's not working is when we snap to this line over here, it picked up an elevation. So I'm just going to draw a line. I'm going to offset that line 1 meter. Or sorry, 3 meters, not 1. 3 meters. Delete the original one. And just move this from here to here. So if I was to measure a distance from the midpoint to the midpoint, it's going to be 3 meters away. Now I'm going to turn this into a feature line now. So under grading, create feature line from objects. Enter. I want this on my pond sump, and I'm going to make it magenta now. Erase existing entities, assign elevations, but this time I'm going to take it from my pond floor surface, and I'm going to click OK. I'm going to do an elevation editor. I'm going to find out the lowest elevation. So 1115.509. And I'm going to make all of them 1115.509. I am then going to drop it by 1 meter. So change this by 1 meter. Select them all again. Drop it to 1114.509. So this feature line is now 1 meter below the lowest part of my floor. So I'm going to come up here, I'm going to grading, create grading. I'm going to change my grading group to my pond sump. I'm going to create a new group name, grading group, pond sump. I'm going to click OK. My target surface I want to be my pond floor. I want to grade 3:1 to surface. And then I'm going to create grading. So I want to grade from here to the outside, entire length yes, 3:1, 3:1. Now it looks like I dropped it a little too much. These 2 points should be roughly right on top of each other. So this should be right here. So I either moved it way too much, I didn't account for the drop in the surface. So I'm going to find out the distance here. I'm going to move that feature line back a little bit. So there's 0.453 meters difference. So I'm going to draw a line, offset that line, 0.453, 0.453 to this side, move that feature line from there to there. Now again, it's still a little bit off, but we can trim that up. Again, our sump is not going to be exactly 3:1. If you really wanted to fix it, there are ways of kind of getting in there, and you might just cause yourself a little bit more of a headache trying to fix that. Again, they would not build it with this little kind of gap in here. Again, that's only 2.5 centimeters, so it's not going to make a huge difference. If you really wanted to move it again, go for it. You can move it an additional 2.5 centimeters, but again, it's not really going to butt up to where you need. Another option that we could actually use is grading at grading to an elevation. So we know the bottom elevation, we can grade off, we can find where that line is, and we can try that. And actually, let's give that a try. That's not a bad idea. So we need to change our grading group back to pond berm. We'll change our criteria to projection to elevation. And again, we need this elevation again. 1114.509. 3:1 to elevation. We're going to create a grading along this line, not to the entire length. We want to grade from here to here. 1114.509. 3:1, 3:1. So this, now we can move from here to there. And it looks like that's moved. Or no, that's just our red line underneath, so we can delete that. So we've got our 1114.509 reading off the berm, 3:1 down. We've taken our 1114.509 sump feature line and just snapped it to that blue line, perpendicular. So things should more or less mostly line up now. So I'm going to delete that grading, And again, sorry, I used the delete command, use the delete grading from up in here, just to eliminate any potential issues. And again, they're not quite on top of each other, but in this case, it's millimeters. So, as they don't build rounded objects in real world, we need to kind of fix this and square it off. So I'm going to take this outside sump feature line, and I'm going to explode it, which will turn it into a bunch of straight lines. Now that has gotten rid of my grading object, which I'm okay with, but it's also left this with some pixelated corners. Now I'm going to start off by drawing a polyline from here to here. And again, if you change, let's just change the layer color. We'll be deleting these after. Just put it on def points for now. And we draw it from here to here. And I'm going to draw from here to here. Now, we're going to extend these. So without using snaps, I'm just going to go and tell both of these to be elevation 0 with properties. Elevation 0. Then we can fill it, radius of 0, these two lines. So this corner needs to be out here now. That's where the location needs to be. But now that I've defined these lines, I'm going to mirror it. Just along the midpoint to the midpoint. So these ones should line up on this side as well. So we've defined our other side now. And finally, if we can extend, I don't think we can extend to this grading line. Oh, we can. Let's extend that to there as well. So we've defined our 4 square corners now, instead of doing them all one by one. So I'm going to now highlight this feature line, or this is now a 3D polyline. And I'm going to hover over, and I'm going to start removing vertexes. So I've removed those 4. Then I'm going to take this and drop it on the corner. I'll do the same over here. So again, the less number of vertexes you have, the easier it is going to be for grading. So I'm just going to come along, remove all 4 corners again. Oh. Some of them you might not be able to remove because that's the start and the end point. Or there's multiple nodes on top of each other. So I'm going to move this one into the corner, snap it to the end. I'm going to come along, I'm going to make sure this one is snapped to the end of this. Make sure this is snapped to there. I'm just lining things up. Remove that, remove that, remove, move, snap. And maybe we'll remove this one and snap this one. Nope. So again, we'll delete these green lines. I now have a top of sump feature line that has as few vertices as possible. So again, we could even remove this one and snap that back. So again, the less number of nodes you have, the better. So we're going to go and make this into a feature line again. So under grading, create feature lines from objects, pond sump, magenta, match the other one, erase existing entities, and let's reassign it elevations from our pond floor surface. We wanted to pick up elevations from the pond floor. Okay. So we have our 2 feature lines now. Let's quickly rebuild our pond berm. Let's create a new surface. Name it Pond Sump. Okay. Let's paste these 2 feature lines into that Pond Sump surface. We'll hit OK. We'll hit OK. And we now have an additional surface. So I'm going to save the drawing again. And now what we've done is introduce another layer here. So right in this area, if you count the pond berm, the pond floor, the high water level, we have 3 or 4 surfaces stacked up. We're creating layers now. Now this is why sites are so important. We keep these layers separate. If they start interacting with each other and seeing each other and talking with each other, they're going to start causing problems if they're different elevations. Now I'm going to freeze a few surfaces off here, so just use layer freeze. I'm going to freeze berm, floor. I'm going to freeze my grading for now, so all I'm left with is my sump. Now Civil 3D has gone and triangulated a few things that we don't want it to triangulate, so we need to go in and manually tell those to go away. So I'm going to select my surface, right click, go into my edit surface style, under display, turn triangles on. Now you will see that the pond floor has also turned on, so I'm going to layer freeze that as well. I'm going to send this to the back just so you can see the feature lines. Now when we define this sump, we told it to follow this purple line. But as you can see, Civil 3D is triangulating, so we need to go and remove these extra triangles, or we're going to get a surface that does not build correctly. So under Pond Sump, in your tool space, definition, edits, I'm going to right click and delete lines. I'm going to click once for this triangle, hit enter. I'm going to click once for this triangle and hit enter. So we've now removed those 2 triangles from the surface definition. I'm going to turn my layers back on, layer previous. We'll try it again. And then I'm going to go back into my surface style and shut the triangles off. So we now have 4 surfaces for our pond: floor, high water level, sump, berm. We're going to make a master surface, but let's go and design our forebay next. So we need the high water level for this. Let's put the top of the forebay at the high water level. So if you don't remember what the elevation of the high water level surface was, you can check the feature line. Sometimes hovering over the surface will work. In this case, I see 1118. If you have too many things turned on or displaying, it might not show your elevation. So 1118 is our high water level. We're going to put the top of the forebay at that elevation. So hovering over your berm surface, you can see that, okay, tin surface, sorry, this feature line is 1118.009. Now again, part of the pond is not very deep, but that is okay. So I'm going to start by drawing a polyline. I'm going to snap it, and we'll go about 1/3 of the way into the pond, give or take. I'm going to snap it to this 1118. I'm going to go straight across the pond, and I'm going to perpendicular it to the 1118 on the other side. So snap it from 1118 on here, all the way across to 1118 on there. Now I'm going to go ahead and move that a bit so we can have about 1/3 of the distance. So just snap it back to 1118. It should still have that 1118 information in it, and when we make it a feature line, we'll go and see. Now we need to create the other side of the top of our forebay. We can do this either with a grading object, or we can just offset this line and make them both feature lines at the same time. So I'm going to offset, not move, offset, distance will go, I will go 1.5 meters. From here, off to the right, enter. So again, just make sure these 2 polylines are touching this red contour line, that's 1118. If you snap to the wrong contour line or get the wrong elevation, you're going to know it right away when we make a combined master surface. So under grading, I'm going to create feature lines from objects. I'm going to select those 2 forebay lines. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to put it on my pond forebay surface, and I'm going to make this one yellow. Erase existing entities. We shouldn't need to assign elevations on this one, as when we snap to that contour line, it should have picked that up. Let's click OK and go find out. So if I select this one, elevation editor, 1118. And this one as well, elevation editor, 1118. So let's go and start grading this now. So grading, create grading. My grading group, Pond Forebay. New group name, Pond Forebay. Okay. My target surface, this time I want to target my pond berm. We'll hit OK. Grade 3:1 to surface. 3:1 to surface. We'll create grading. So I want to grade this line to this side. Entire length, yes, 3:1, 3:1. This line, this side, entire length, yes, 3:1, 3:1. So this is now our Pond Forebay. So let's add these to a surface. We'll create a new surface. We'll name it Pond Forebay. We'll hit OK. I'm going to select all 4 of these. Oop, not the grading object, but the end result. Right click, add to surface as a break line, and choose my Pond Forebay. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to hit OK again. So now if we look at these 2 new pieces we built in Object Viewer, select that, Object Viewer. We got our Forebay, we got our sump, and again these are unexaggerated. So right now, we've designed our Forebay, we've designed our sump, floor, berm, high water level. They're all separate surfaces. So again, when we're grading, we want to keep things separate. We need to combine them all together at the end. And then we can get a master water level. We can find out what our pond water, how much water our pond holds once everything is pasted together. So let's create another surface. We'll name it Complete Pond Design. We'll hit OK. And I'm going to layer freeze. I'm just going to freeze off all my surfaces so we can actually see what's happening. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to edit my grading, cut grading style. Sorry. Go into Grading Editor. And I'm going to change, sorry, not Grading Editor either. Grading Group Properties. Not there either. Let's check the last one, Grading Properties. And I'm going to change these to cut and fill no slope lines. You'll have to do this a few times. Cut no, fill no. Just to hide all these perpendicular lines. Cut no, fill no. And one more. And yes, it gives us a couple extra lines, but that's okay. Grading Properties. Cut no, fill no. It's a lot cleaner to print something with just a few little lines on it than it is to print a whole bunch of lines. Again, if you exploded everything, if you want to explode everything, go for it. It'll keep it clean. So under our surfaces, Complete Pond Design, Definition, Edits, we're going to right click and go Paste Surface. Now the order of this matters. If you mess the order up, the first things you paste in, anything over top of it will overwrite. So to show you, I'm going to paste in my Pond Sump. And then I'm going to come in and paste in my Pond Berm. So due to the order of operations, the berm is now overwriting the sump, which means your sump is not going to model. It's not going to display. So I'm going to just quickly fix that under Surface Properties, Definition. I'm going to move the pond sump after the berm. Hit OK, rebuild. And now the sump shows again. I'm going to again paste in my Pond Forebay. We're going to hit OK. as it's over top of the floor, it models correctly. So let's save this quickly. Let's do an object viewer. Now I didn't paste in my pond floor. I didn't paste in my high water level. If I did the pond floor, the berm is already defining the pond floor the way we set it up, so that's fine. The high water level will override everything. We don't want that. So in object viewer now, we see my pond. So I have my sump, I've got my berm, I got my floor, I got my outside berms, I have my forebay. So let's check the volume one last time. And I'm going to say it's probably around 9,500, 9,800 cubic meters. So base surface, I'm now going to choose my complete pond design. That is the completed pond. Pond high water level. Sorry, okay, so I was wrong with the volume. We're still above the 10,000 cubic meters that we need. Again, if you're above or a little bit below, that's okay. We just want to try and hold 10,000 cubic meters. In real life, would they build a pond on the side of the highway like this when all the water slopes downhill into Fish Creek? Probably not. But again, that's the proper steps for designing a pond, for constructing a pond in Civil 3D properly with the proper workflows. Do we have a whole bunch more surfaces? Complete pond design, pond berm, pond floor, pond forebay, pond high water level, pond sump. We've added 6 additional surfaces into our drawing. Again, they're tiny surfaces. They're not going to make a huge impact on performance. We've also created 5 sites, but we only used 4. Now, keeping things separate, proper workflow is of utmost importance here. Save often. Maybe back up your files often. Grading is unstable. If we, as you saw in the sites video, if you put 2 things on the same site with different elevations, they will cause issues really, really quickly. So again, we created a pond berm, pond sump, pond forebay. If you want to take a step further, the exact same steps could be governed for a pond inlet. So choose the outside elevations, have a pond inlet the same elevation as your high water level, design a ditch to your road. Now, coming down the steep slope might not be the best idea, so come around over here. Again, to ensure that all water flows to the pond, that is something that should be done, but getting the pond done the way it is a hard enough task. So again, the ditches and the inlet are just 2 more steps. You would need an outlet on the pond just in case it does flow over. You don't want it eroding your berms. So 3 more surfaces, 3 more sites, 3 more options that things could go wrong if you make a slight mistake. So again, those last 2 videos, creating a pond, proper workflows, proper steps.